Hi, I'm Grant Nelson, and this is my dog Bailey right here to my right, and welcome to Mustache Off Grid. Wow! Nice! Yee! Hi guys, it's Grant Nelson again here with the Mustache Off Grid YouTube channel. In case you're new to the channel, I live off grid in southern Missouri and in a one-room cabin and no public utility hookups. And I do a talk show every week, and that's what this is today. So I'll get right into the topic here. I know that there's probably some people watching that are interested in the off-grid lifestyle. There's probably some people watching that plan to go off-grid, want to go off-grid. A few people I know watch that are already off-grid. And I know there's some people that are probably homesteaders as well, you know, country living but not off-grid, or and there's probably a lot of people that just watch for entertainment, I'm sure. But anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit about one, when you first go off-grid, shelter. You know, what are you going to do for shelter? Do you have a plan for that? Going out to your land, or are you just going out there in your car and just going? You know, a lot of people do it that way, how I just said. You know, they just buy the land, they just go out there. Especially if you have a place nearby that you can go to get supplies and things like that. I don't think that's the worst way to start going off grid. I think there's worse ways to go, but especially if you're in the right time of year where it's not too cold, things like that. We're getting quite a few leaves out here right now. We're really getting into the fall time. I know I talked in some of my other videos this last week or two. I've really been deer hunting hard with the bow. I'm testing out that new crossbow I got. You know, a little off topic here, but really been enjoying that. You know, just out in nature, seeing probably 30 plus deer over the times I've been out there. And, you know, I'm sure it's just a matter of time before I get one close enough to really get it, which is part of the deal with that crossbow. But anyway, if you're out on your new land that you just bought, you have your supplies, you have your vehicle maybe, and you're just going out there to live and shelter. We were talking about shelter here, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story with shelter. When I first went out to the land out here, I had a plan to just go out. I really didn't have a plan for shelter, to tell you the truth. I had an idea that I wanted to get one of those sheds like that. I figured I could probably get one for $3 grand or $4 grand or $5 grand, somewhere around there, and I was willing to go there for a place to stay. I also was considering possibly getting a camper instead. Both very good options as far as it goes. If you want to get yourself one of those prefab shed cabins, it's not a bad place to start. A camper, I think, is a little more affordable option to start, especially if you're planning on living in it temporarily and plan to build something else. And I know some of you guys that watch consistently might know that I'm planning to build a log cabin. I've got a bunch of logs down the hill here from clearing the pig pen over there. So there's a wide variety of ways that you can do shelter, but to start off, you're going to need at least very minimal. And when I first came out here, I just had a $20 Walmart tent, and I just had my car. So that was all the shelter I had. And as far as it goes, yeah, it was just a probably $20 to $40 Walmart tent. I think it was 20, honestly. I think it was $20. And, you know, it's not waterproof. So if it was going to rain or something like that, I would go in my car. I would let it dry out if it got wet and on hot days and things like that. And I did have a plan, though, to either get a camper or a shed delivered, like I said. And I went and I started out there in the middle of April, and I was in that tent in my car, and I had been out there maybe 2-3 weeks, and then I went up the West Plains, which is near me, and I ordered a one of the prefab sheds to come, and they told me it'd be there in 90 days. And in the meantime, I ended up building just like a storage shed, which I stayed in instead of the tent. After I built that, it was nice because it was watertight. All right, guys, here's the shed here. This is the one that I stayed in for a while. I mostly just keep tools and feed and things like that in it now. You can see it's pretty small. It's about 8 by 8. You didn't get, you know, you didn't have to sleep in your car if it rained and things like that. And I did sleep in my car 3 or 4 nights as it rained throughout that month and things like that. I'll say this, I did learn a lot staying in a tent like that. And one thing I learned that, you know, you learn, it's actually very comfortable sleeping on the ground like that, to me anyway. I felt like it was very peaceful. You're more in touch with nature sleeping on the ground like that. You know, it just, I don't know, something about it, it just seems very natural. You also start to rise and sleep, you know, rise and shine and go to bed with the weather and the sun a little bit more. So you start to rise when the sun comes up and go to bed when the sun goes down. And wildlife, you know, you get this kind of concern in your mind about wildlife staying in a tent like that. I was very concerned with snakes because I had never been around a lot of snakes. There's a lot of them down here. I had seen quite a few smaller ones and, you know, big black ones and things like that. And I was concerned that, you know, in the night with my warmth on the ground like that, that maybe a snake would crawl under the tent and be under there. And obviously there was a tarp between me and the snake, so really there wouldn't be anything the snake could do. But it was just kind of a irrational fear in my mind. It never happened. Generally speaking, snakes don't like to be around people or animals that are alive. They try to stay away from those things unless they're hunting little mice or something like that. And when they do that, they usually just post up in one spot where there's a trail, and they can smell that scent or that carbon footprint from that little rodent or animal, and they just wait until it comes back by. So generally speaking, they aren't moving around very often or a lot. I mean, I'm not saying they don't slither around once in a while. I'm just saying that they aren't real active, and they prefer to stay away and not reside in places where other animals are residing. So that was one fear I had. I remember there was a bunch of raccoons when I first came out here that would I would feed Bailey the dog outside of the tent, and they would come up at night about 3 feet, you know, probably about that far from the tent, right by my feet, and they would eat that dog food. And I tried a bunch of times to shoot them, but they were always too fast. And if I did shoot them, I would have ate them for sure, but they were eating the dog's food. They were being a pest, and it was, you know, I don't know. I just didn't want raccoons that close to me while I was sleeping. So that was one thing that was going on back then with the talking about wildlife and the sleeping in a tent on the ground like that. And it was like that for probably a month or two, I would say. And then I built that little storage shed where I started staying in that as well. I'll show you guys the storage shed in the video as well, just right here, so you can see what it looks like. It's not much, and it's a little bit more run down now because it's not really meant to be lived in. But It was supposed to be a temporary structure for me to stay in. So that was a thing. And they told me that the prefab shed was going to be here in 90 days. Um, and it ended up taking about 6 months. So I ended up staying in, little shed, temporary shed that I just used for storing my tools for 6 months, waiting for that prefab shed to come. And it was about the same as the tent, really. I didn't even have a door on it. I just had it open. I had a little board that I would slide over, but I didn't even have a door on it at the time. I just left it open. So animals could come in there and things, but they never did. And me and the dog were always in there, so they kind of stayed away. There was a little bit of moisture sometimes in that shed that would kind of just come through the cracks, and you would end up, because it had a tin roof, whenever it rains sometimes, and I've kind of gotten over it now, but sorry, there was a bee or something, guys, but whenever it rains, sometimes you would get a little moisture on you, and you're trying to stay, dry in there, sleeping at night, and in that temporary shed. I'm not saying it was, perfectly watertight. It was pretty good though. But when you're sleeping in there and you got moisture, that's just uncomfortable, and it's just natural for humans to want to be warm and dry, especially when they're sleeping. And for a while after I got out of staying in that metal shed, whenever it would rain on my tin roof on the prefab shed that I got, you would just kind of be like, you'd get a little bit of a feeling like, you need to stay dry mentally, but that one's watertight. There's no water getting in that one. But it's just the point that because I was out there, you kind of think when you hear that noise, the pitter patter on the roof, you'd think, oh, I need to stay dry. So that was one thing. You kind of get little things like that and you adjust to them. I would move my sleeping bag and things like that to a drier location when I was doing it that way. But truthfully, staying in the tent and the little shed like that for 6 months until my building was delivered, for me, some people would look at it as like, oh, that was terrible, blah, blah, blah. I really enjoyed it, and truthfully, I could have stayed out there forever that way. It didn't hurt me. I was free. I didn't have obligations. I could sleep till when I wanted to. I could sleep when I wanted to. I could wake up when I wanted to. I could eat when I wanted to. I was working on projects daily to make things better out here and improving things. So I had things every day I was working on, and I was enjoying it. And there's so many little, how can I put it? There's so many little things that you do on a daily basis. Camping like that, it was kind of camping, in a way, because it was a temporary thing, that you don't do in daily life, but they're so natural to humans to do. Like, I would cook on the fire every morning and every evening, and I cooked everything on the fire the whole first year. I never used any propane or anything like that. And I had the cast iron pan, and I'd cook on the fire. And on a nice cool morning, cooking on the fire like that, it's just an experience. It's a wonderful experience. You've got the great smell of the smoke. You've got the food always tastes better. And then even in the evening, as the sun starts to go down, you get that beautiful sunset. You've got that nice smoke. It's warmer, than the air. And there's just something about it. It's so natural for man to cook that way and live that way. And, 100 years ago, probably more than 100, let's say 150 years ago, back in the 1800s, there were people out on the trails and traveling and living, and that was how they lived. They didn't own anything. They just had a horse, a saddlebag, and, cooking things, and they would go from town to town doing labor to get some money and supplies, and that's just how they lived. And it's not as bad as a way of life as people would think it is. Um, you know, I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of experiences to it that are wonderful experiences. Like I talked about cooking on the fire. I wish I could, you know, as far as it goes, cooking on the fire, um, that's the way that man is meant to cook. I don't think the propane and everything else is the way. I remember the one thing about cooking on the fire, though, that is a disadvantage, I'll say, is boiling water takes a long time, and getting it off the fire and everything like that can be a little bit of a pain, but especially if you're warming up water to clean up, clean yourself. I would clean myself for church and things like that. Um, but generally speaking, it was, you know, that's a minimal thing. It's not like I didn't get clean. It just took a little longer to do it. And when you got your time to yourself, it doesn't really matter. Um, but I've noticed that the thing is that humans tend to give themselves, and when you start associating with other humans, you start to get other time things that you're committed to, and you don't really have freedom of your time anymore. You know, that's just my opinion. And I'm not saying that I mean, yeah, you can say no, but sometimes it can be kind of rude to say no on certain things. And the more you associate, the more obligations, time obligations you get, and things that you have to do, and you have to be cleaner and things like that. And I'm not saying that, you know, you can't be clean. I'm just saying, like, if it takes you an hour to boil the water instead of just jumping in the shower right away and it taking 60 seconds, you know, turning the knob, I'm saying it takes a lot longer. The processes, the manual processes, a lot of them off grid, and living in a primitive way like that. So that's just my experience on it. I really enjoyed it. Truthfully, I'm hoping to get back to that, you know, in the future here, because it's just such a free experience living in such an old-fashioned way off the land. I mean, obviously I still had a car, so I could still go to town and get food, which I was at the time, and I wasn't producing anything yet because I didn't have water, things like that. I would fill up some tanks and things like that and bring them out here for water. But I'll just say that, you know, it's a wonderful experience. And one thing too, when you're living like that, people that live in the modern world, we are so spoiled. Everything's at the turn of a knob, flip of a switch, push of a button, and people are so used to that, they wouldn't know what to do if they had to boil their water on the fire every day, or if they had to cook all their breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the fire every day, or if they didn't have a refrigerator. People just would have no idea what to do, and they would go crazy, and they would be so uncomfortable. But the thing is, if they took a step back and enjoyed it a little bit, they wouldn't be so uncomfortable. You know, that's just my opinion on it, but there's a lot of joys to that stuff, and just having freedom of your time. It's cheaper. I'm sure it's not as efficient, it's not as fast, but the quality of everything you get is better when you do it that way. So cooking on the fire was one thing like that every day, and I still cook on the fire a lot. I try to cook on the fire at least once a week, sometimes twice a week if my propane runs out. Sometimes I'll cook on the fire for weeks on end. And that's just propane tanks I use from town, but I mostly like that because you can boil water a little easier. Like I said, that was kind of the one annoyance, but other than that, everything was really great living like that. But I was getting into it that people kind of wouldn't know what to do with themselves if they had to live that way, and they also tend to judge. When they see someone living that way, they think that you're very hard off. And I've had people refer to me as a squatter, and things like that, even though I own my land. Um, and I don't think they knew that I would ever hear that they said that, because they said it to someone else. And, the most people would say, well, he's a very nice guy, a good neighbor. And now they know me. Now most of the people know me, and I didn't really take offense to it. I just went in one ear out the other, but I'm just saying that I know that people judge you a little bit when you're living that way. They think you're hard off. They think that you can't afford things. Um, they think that you're like homeless because you're living off the land and you don't have electricity and you don't have running water and things like that. Um, but the thing about it is, them people just don't get it always. They don't quite understand what I'm talking about, the joys of being free. The fact that it costs less, the fact you have freedom of your time when you're doing that stuff. You're not relying on anyone else for those things when you boil that water on the fire. Um, I mean, I guess somewhat you are if you're using a lighter and things like that, but um, people just tend to judge. They tend to act like you're some hobo or something if you um, live in a primitive way like that. And um, truthfully, they're missing out. That's all I can say. And I don't have anything against working a job or working or whatever. If you want to work hard and have the American dream, a suburban house with a quarter-acre lot and one or two nice cars in the driveway and a big family and all that stuff. There's nothing wrong with the American dream as it was pictured, in the 50s and 60s. I'm just saying that that dream's different for everyone, and there's a lot of things that we're missing out on with all the efficiency. The quality's going down a lot, and I talked about that judgment. Them people judge people like that, but they're going and working 50, 60 hours a week every week, and probably 60-70% of their life they're going to be working. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with working, but if you're trying to create something outside of the system, um, I think that those people, when they see something different, they don't really like it as much. They see something different and they think it's weird, or they just don't like it because it's not what they're used to. Um, and there's nothing against them people that do that. I love everyone. Um, Bible says to love your enemies, love your neighbors. I'm just saying that people tend to judge a little bit that primitive lifestyle, and I think some people get a little bit jealous, especially when they see a younger person doing it. Not saying everyone does, but you can tell that some people really look down on it a little bit, and that's fine. I'm not doing it for anyone but myself, and for peace of mind. So I mean, it really don't matter to me, that kind of thing, I guess. Like I said, if someone wants to work 60 to 70% of their life and give half their hours to the man like that, that's a free country to do that. I'm just saying that sounds like a scam to me a little bit. And truthfully, I think that we've got a lot of illegitimate systems in our government and in our society. Illegitimate, and I mean they're not legitimate. A lot of fake stuff going on, fake news, everything else like that. And I'm just not interested in just continuing going about the way of life like everyone's acting like everything's just fine and normal. And it is somewhat. I mean, there's still food on the shelves and things like that. Sure, they're 3 or 4 times the price that they used to be. Maybe even 5 or 6 times the price that they used to be. I just refuse to continue to just go with the consensus and like I said, I'm trying to secede from society when I came out here. I didn't do it out of fear or anything like that. I did it for the joy and the fun of, building a cabin in the woods and living off grid. But there were other benefits to it as well. And like I said, I'm not interested in just continuing to comply, um, like they want you to. And every single person that goes to work, just continues going to work, and they've been doing that since 2018, and they haven't said a word about anything to other than friends or family. Um, that's the reason it's working for the government and the elites and things like that. It's working because people just continue to just go about their daily lives and do things, even though they're deteriorating just a little bit every year. It's getting a little bit worse every year. And like I said, I think there's a lot of illegitimacy in government and in society and in the economy. And I just refuse to I'm not interested in participating in that. So that's just my opinion on things, guys. And like I said, some of those people might judge you if you decide to go off grid and live a more primitive and old-fashioned lifestyle. It's funny I'm talking about that. Me and my brother talk about it, on the phone sometimes, and we talk about AI. We talk about all kinds of stuff, and um, lately he's been saying, they're trying to put you in a box. They're trying to categorize you, and they want to be able to predict your movements and what you're doing, which is true. When you type a word on your phone, on your text, and the next word pops up to fill that message, they're trying to predict what you're trying to do. And the thing is that you're generally only predictable if you're just following what they want you to, following the trail that they set out for you. Not that it really matters. I'm just saying, they're trying to predict everything, and you can't predict what people are going to do. We're all different. We're all unique. And I'm just saying that whenever someone sees something that's different, they don't like it. But I guess the AI thing was kind of off topic a little bit, but they are trying to put you in a box, categorize you, and try to predict your next step. There's no doubt about that. What else was I going to say here? Or what else was I thinking about saying? Yeah, I was going to talk about the Amish a little bit. Their way of life is a little bit different, and it's off grid. They're separate from society. They have their own community. They have their old-fashioned ways. They don't use electricity. They're basically as close to off grid as you can get. And it's funny, talking about how people judge and don't like that. Different. They see you out there doing it primitively, and you're living in a tent and things like that, and they kind of judge it a little bit. And I've seen it with the Amish community. A lot of people talk negatively about the Amish a little bit. They say because they'll hire someone to dig something with a excavator or something, but they won't run the excavator because they don't believe in the technology. Or, they just kind of complain. They don't like that they drive the buggies on the road slow, things like that. I mean, there's a lot of people that really like the Amish and are friends with them, but there is a lot of people that don't like the way that the Amish live. I've seen it online a lot too, and it's kind of unfair to the Amish because they aren't going to go online to defend themselves because they don't use computers or electronics. But it's the same exact concept as when you go out here and you're doing something different that's not the norm, the societal norm. It's outside of people's mental capacity to consider the positives to what you're doing. They look at it and they say, I wouldn't like that. That'd be uncomfortable. But you're free. And, a lot of those people aren't as free as they want to be. I'm just saying, like, the concept of people judging you going out there going off grid is very similar to the concept of people judging the Amish and their way of life, which is, like I said, I've met people that have talk negatively about the Amish and things like that, and most people are pretty positive about them, but there is some people that really just don't like that they don't use technology, that they don't conform, and things like that. And like I said, I'm out here trying to secede from society. I'm not trying to do the same things as everyone else in society, and that's what the Amish have done with their communities. And I have a great respect for that, and they're very good people, wholesome people, Christian people, and they live an old-fashioned lifestyle, and they maintain the skills that will disappear if people don't start using them. So anyway, that's a little bit of my ramble today, guys. Just kind of talking about people judging you off-grid for going off-grid, living a more primitively way. You know, there's a million ways to go off-grid. I mean, you can go off-grid with all the utility, you know, with the internet and things like that. But if you want to do it primitively, build a log cabin in the woods, you know, that kind of thing, you'll probably get some judgment, possibly. And like I said, the Amish get some of that judgment. And but I thought it was a great experience staying in a tent. I enjoyed it. I never felt dirty because I would boil water and clean myself at least every 2 days or so. I cooked on the fire every day, which was great. It was a wonderful experience in the morning and everything like that, me and the dog. You know, working on projects every day. Really, the way that I look at shelter, like a tent or a camper or, you know, whatever you're using, it's just a way to keep the rain, animals, and cold weather off you. That's all shelter should be thought of in your head. People have this thought of it because of the way that houses are built, that it has to be a big industrial entertainment complex with all these different things. It really just has to keep the rain off you, keep the snow off you, keep the cold out, and keep animals and bugs and disease off you. So anyway, that's my ramble, guys. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, and God bless. Come here. Come here, boy. Come here, boy. All right, now sit. Sit. Come on. Good boy. Good boy. All right, well, guys, if you enjoy the channel and the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.